to this because I was like, that goes against everything I believe business is. Like, it's so much about generosity and collaboration and giving and just being there.
Well, let's practice something. In BNI, we call it a champagne referral. Who would be your perfect connection today? And between all of us, the thousands of people watching, let's find out if we can get you your perfect referral to easily cover your expenses of coming on today. Lee, who would be your perfect client?
My perfect client.
Mm-hmm.
So my ideal client is a complete beginner in business.
Mm-hmm. You got a few of those, few hundred of those, yeah. Beginner, yeah.
Someone who identifies as a beginner. So many of my clients have been in business for 5-6 years, but they still see themselves as a beginner. So someone who's trying to find their feet and they're not quite where they thought they would be. And I work across a range of industries. Quite a few online businesses at the moment, but I love working with small product businesses, artisans, that sort of thing as well.
We're going to find you some. Now, do you want? We're going to just put you on the stage and just leave quietly and let you get on. Is that good?
That's good. So can I share my screen and go?
Please, yeah, share your screen. Tim, have a lovely afternoon. Thank you. Acknowledge you for your time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, are you good to share your screen? I'm going to disappear.
I'm going for it.
Okay, all right. So.
Okay. Are we good? Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen and it looks great. Canva, one of my favourite tools.
Oh, isn't it amazing? Okay, so I'm starting with a picture of me. So my name is Lee McQueen, and that's the girl Lee, not the boy Lee. And I call myself a small business specialist. So I'm a trainer or a mentor. I don't love using the word coach, but I suppose I do a bit of coaching. But what I do is I help beginner business owners to find their feet through training, workshops, and community. And the kind of talk or masterclass that I've put together today for you is called 5 Reasons Why People Aren't Buying For You. And the reason why I'm super passionate about this subject is because it's the number one thing people come to me with. Like, the number one question people come and ask me is always like, I'm doing all the things, I've put all the things in place, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm doing flyer drops, I'm making calls, whatever it is, but nobody's buying from me. And often there are just a few little tweaks that a business owner needs to do, or a few things that you need to stop and look at yourself. You need to be a little bit introspective and see what you are perhaps doing that are turning people away. So that's where this is coming from, and I really hope it will be helpful. So first of all, a couple of misconceptions in the sort of the life of a new business owner that I feel like we need to address first. So the first one is believing that everyone is a customer is quite a big problem. You are so passionate about this business that you've created and these amazing products you're making or the service that you just feel like everyone will want to buy it. So seeing the whole world as a customer instead of focusing in on one type of person or, niching down and really understanding your market well is one misconception that every new business owner kind of needs to get over. And my advice there is don't be afraid to get really specific and niche down and speak to one person, because your message is more likely to be heard. I actually heard a really good analogy once, which was if you have this amazing new stuff called water and you want everyone to understand what water is, if you take the whole bucket and you pour it on one person's head, that person will be like, oh, wow, I really understand what water is. Like, they fully experienced it, and every person they meet, they'll tell them about this experience of getting completely drenched. Whereas if you take that bucket and you give everyone one drop, spread out over 1,000 people, they barely notice it. They get on with their day. They're not going to pay attention. So rather soak one person and let them spread the word for you, and it unfolds that way, than trying to reach millions of people with one tiny little drop. Okay, the next misconception I come across quite often, which I often have to be a bit hard about, is believing that people care. Because you think your business is so interesting that everyone will care. Nobody cares more about your business than you, except for maybe your mum and your best friend and your business coach, obviously. But thinking that people are interested and are maybe like reading through everything on your website is another sort of a common misconception that we need to, that I love to help people get past. And the other misconception is that more people equals more sales. So the more people who know about you, the more sales you're going to make. And again, it goes back to that understanding that really helping one person to understand what you do is going to be so much more effective than reaching tons and tons of people. I get this a lot on social media when I offer to help people promote their businesses. They will often come back to me and say, well, all I need is more followers. I just need to know how to reach more people. Like volume will equal sales. And it really doesn't. I mean, I've worked with people with social media followings of like 50,000 or more, and they're not making any money because it doesn't matter about the number of people. What really matters is the quality. Okay, so where I'm going with all of this is what we think. Hold on, I feel like I've missed a slide. No, I haven't. Okay. What we think the customer journey will look like is we'll meet a stranger and they'll go, wow, this is amazing. Tell me all about it. And then they'll become a customer. As a beginner, this is what beginners tend to think. But what really happens is we meet a stranger, and anyone in the market's initial reaction to your business is always going to be, what is this? How does this apply to my life? What's in it for me? Not, wow, what an amazing business. Let me see how I can support it. But how does this apply to me? How is this going to help me? And that's why they say in the online world these days, you've typically got about 0.8 seconds to grab someone's attention on your website or your social media, because the customer wants to see immediately what's in it for me. So if you can get that part right, the what's in it for me, then they might become a follower. And this works online as well as offline. This is when you're kind of going through that phase with the customer where they're thinking, this looks interesting. Maybe I should find out some more. Do I like this person? Can I trust this person? Do I want to get to know this person? What will it feel like to buy from them? And only after going through this process, which can take a long time, it's not, this is another sort of problem that beginners have, is they think that this process is going to be quick, but it often takes a lot longer than we think to get to the point where they want to become a customer, where they're thinking, where can I buy this, and how can I make use of this product in my life? Okay, so where I was going with all of this is you need to make sure that you're understanding there are two perspectives. On your perspective, from your perspective, you see your product and all the wonderful features and all the working parts and details and all the effort and all the love you've put into creating this thing, especially when I work with people who are making things themselves, artisans, that sort of thing. But from the customer's perspective, all they really see is, what are the benefits? What is in it for me? How does this improve my life? So it's really important to make that distinction. And actually, Boyd said something about this earlier, which was, he said, the problem, sort of the mistake most people make is they show more interest in their own business than in their customer, where you really do need to be showing more interest in your customer and getting to know them and pushing all the right buttons than being so invested in how amazing your product is and what you're selling is. I just lost my earring, so I'm just going to put it back. Okay, let's move on. Maybe I won't. Okay, I will. All right, so where are all the customers? My 5 reasons why people aren't buying from me. I hope you've got a pen and paper, but if you miss it because I have crammed a lot of info in here, then you can just get in touch and I will send you these slides or something so you can look through them. So reason number 1 why people are often not buying from you is that you're not making things clear. So a good example of this is if you sometimes walk into a shop, not in the last year and a half, but you walk into a shop and they're selling all kinds of things. There's like bicycles in the corner and sweets over there and clothes in that side. And it's just overwhelming and confusing. And you're kind of like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. It's uncomfortable and you want to leave. Now, I see this a lot in online businesses. I see it in a lot of small businesses, especially, is you think that by diversifying, you're kind of covering all the bases. There's something for everyone. Surely something will hit. Someone will buy something. But too many products and no clear direction is really off-putting, and people are turned off from buying. trying to be everything to everyone, so trying to please too many people. So this often happens if you haven't been very clear about, let's say, your product line or something, and maybe you're making t-shirts and you stock it in 2 colors, and then someone comes along and says, why don't you do it in purple? And then someone says, why don't you do it in pink? And in the end, you end up with like 55 colors, and you're trying to please everybody, but it's too much. It's too, the market actually needs to feel your confidence from you. So if they walk in and you're like, here's my thing, I make it in these 3 colors, this is what it is, that confidence actually comes through, and people feel it, and it's clear, and okay, these are my options, you could make a decision. Another big problem is lack of information. So often I find businesses are burying information somewhere convoluted on their website, and you can't actually figure out how to get in touch with these people. And then another one is no clear path to buy. So no links, maybe if it's an online thing, very often I see people posting Facebook posts or LinkedIn posts, and they're saying, look at my wonderful product, and then there's no link to buy it. So if I'm interested, I'm not going to take the time to go and Google you and sift through all the stuff on your website. I want, hit the link, let's go. No instructions on how to buy, and no simple sort of call to action. So no like clear path basically to buy. It's really important to put that information out there for people, because especially today, we have access to so much information, and we're online all the time. People don't care enough about your product to go searching for information, or to go to figure out how to buy something that they like. They're going to forget about it in 5 seconds if you don't have the information right there for them. Okay, now similar but not the same is making things complicated. So a lot of small businesses will say things like get in touch to buy, or sign into my website to buy. Now if you were in a shop and you got to the till and they said, okay, before you pay, can you just fill in this form with your email address and this and that? And you're gonna be like, no, just let me swipe my card. And it's the same online. I also find it with service providers, where they make things really, really convoluted. Okay, you send me an email, or the website says send me an email, and then when you send them an email, they're kind of like, they don't quite know what info to send you, but they felt like they should maybe say send me an email because it sounds professional. Don't put obstacles in place, just keep it simple. Just make it like, this is, get people from A to B really quickly. Another way of making things super complicated is payment processes. This is actually one of my pet hates, because I'm such a PayPal fan. And if someone only has credit card on their site, I'm like, I'm not going to get up and go downstairs and fetch my card. Sorry, I'm just not going to buy that thing. So make it easy. Have a range of payment options for people, whether it's in person or an online or a service product, whatever it is. Make it simple for people to pay for things. Maybe that means in your business having like a payment process where people can pay off over a few payments, split payment sort of process. Have several things available, and think customer's point of view, not yours. Not, oh, I'm going to go with this one option because the bank fees are less. Make it simple for people. Too many steps, a multi-step buying process again, and then overthinking the user experience. So I see this a lot in online shopping, where people are trying to make things really simple, but end up overcomplicating it with the user experience. So like, you have to sort by colors and by shapes and by the fancy names they've come up with for the products and that sort of thing. Just, again, keep it simple. People don't have the attention spans. They don't care about your business as much as you do. So sorry to be blunt about that, but that is the truth. If you want to make sales, you've got to make it super simple for people. Okay, this is a big one. Assuming people know things. Very, very often I see a client will come to me, right? And they'll say, no one's buying my stuff. But, they've posted about it like once, maybe 6 weeks ago, or they've told 3 people about it. And they assume that these people remember, that they remember them, that they remember what their business is about, that they remember their marketing, their communication material. This is the equivalent of doing like a flyer drop, and 2 years later, still complaining that no one's coming to your shop. But, all you did was like a flyer drop to someone's front door 2 years ago. All that person's done is picked it up and put it in the bin. nobody is going to hold onto your things and look at it and read it. Don't assume that people know stuff. You've got to keep getting the message out there over and over and over. And if you are promoting yourself in an online space, you cannot overdo it. Often small businesses are scared of spamming people and overdoing the marketing, and you literally can't. If you don't like something that's coming up in your social media feed, you scroll past it. You don't sit there and go like, they've posted again. How dare they? This is too much. You just scroll past it. So you literally cannot overdo the posting. So don't assume that people have seen that post that you did ages ago and that they know all about your business. Just keep telling them, keep reminding them. It's just like with kids. You've got to keep on, you say no, like as someone was saying earlier, I think it was Boyd again, you say no to the child and they just keep coming back and coming back and coming back and asking again. You've got to keep reminding them until the message gets through. It's exactly the same thing. It's the same. Adults are no different in that respect. Okay, so assuming people read things, assuming people see things. So, you've put the info on your website about how you work. So why is this person phoning me and asking me questions? They should have seen it. Assuming that people have seen all the information is a big problem that many small businesses have, beginner businesses especially. Assuming people have paid attention, and then assuming it's obvious, assuming that just because you understand some feature of your product or service, or assuming that because it's obvious to you that it's obvious to other people, and also assuming that because you know a lot about it, that other people aren't interested in hearing a lot about it. What you know really well, but your market doesn't necessarily. It might be really interesting to them. So assuming that information is obvious just because you know it well is a big barrier for people. And it's, again, you've got to step out of yourself and see things from your customer's point of view and explain things to them in a really, really logical, step-by-step way, so that they get a deep understanding of what your business is about. And then they're far more likely to be invested in it, if they're the right customer, of course. Okay, not selling with confidence. This is probably the biggest one, really, especially with women. I work with a lot of women, and so many women are scared to sell. They feel almost apologetic about selling. They feel a little bit sleazy, like selling's a bad word. So I've seen people do so many things in this regard. So one of the things is hiding behind your free stuff. So a lot of people, especially in the online world, will do a lead magnet, some kind of free value in exchange for people's details. And even with people who make products, they'll send out loads of free samples to lots of people. But then when it comes to charging, in fact, I contacted someone the other day that I'm interested in one of her products, and I do a lot of sharing on my social media account. And she said, I'll send it to you for free. And I said, no, I want to pay. I'm happy to be a customer. And she was like, no, I'll send it for free. And it's really like it goes deep into like your confidence around selling stuff. If someone is happy to pay for something, let them pay for something. So hiding behind free stuff and not being confident to step up and say, hey, I'm a business, I sell things, is a big problem. And if that's one of your problems, it's something you really need to work on, because your business is nothing without being able to sell. So on that same note, being cagey about your pricing, not displaying it. So I know there's two schools of thought on this. I tend to think people don't like to dig too hard to find pricing. If you do a lot of like pre-selling, so you lay out all your offerings really, really well, they want to see pricing. If your strategy is more about like get them on a sales call, then I can see how, then letting the price come out in that sales call is a good strategy. So it kind of depends on the business. But if you are being cagey about the pricing because you don't feel confident, then that's something you really need to address. And again, being apologetic, so not owning your value. So I see this very often in service providers, where their product costs this much, but then as soon as you say, let's say it's a social media manager, and I say, right, can you quote me on managing my social media for a month? And I say, okay, well, it costs £1,000, but okay, I'll discount it to 800. And before you've even asked for a discount, they're discounting and chopping numbers off the price because they feel like that's the way to get the business, or they don't feel confident in their pricing. So offering discounts and being apologetic about your pricing and assuming that a lower price will result in a sale is all part of not selling with confidence. And it's something you really, again, it's super important to get this right and to not, don't let that one slide. You've got to learn how to sell with confidence. Otherwise, you're not a business. You're not a business if you're not selling stuff. You're an expensive hobby. Okay, and then not following up. This is probably my favorite. I play a little game, actually. I'm quite mean. When I contact someone and I'm interested in their product, I kind of leave it a little bit and wait and see if they follow up, because I don't know, I like to test them like that. So, the follow up is like, I don't know what the stats are. I've heard so many different versions of it, but the follow up is important. It's probably 80% or something of the sale. So not following up, the things people tend to do is they undervalue relationships. So, we buy from people we know, like, and trust. So when it comes to the follow-up, it's important that you've built a relationship, that you've got a base so that you can reach out to that person and say, hey, you were interested in this. It's gone on special now, or it's like, do you want to talk about it again, or whatever it is, whatever the approach is. Undervaluing relationships, not realizing how important relationships are in business, will result in you feeling like you don't have the place, like it's not your place to follow up with someone. Then not keeping a CRM, not keeping a customer relationship manager. So forgetting to manage customer relationships. I actually did this recently. I forgot to put someone in my CRM, and like only this week realized, oh my goodness, this lady actually wanted to speak to me, and I didn't. I forgot. I totally failed on this one. And when I contacted her, she was like, "Oh, I was waiting for you to follow up with me." People do wait. I think a lot of people do in business wait to see. You approach a person, you kind of get to know them, and then you're thinking about it. So if you aren't managing your relationships well in something like a CRM, then you're not getting to that follow-up, and it all falls flat. You take yourself 90% of the way there with all the pre-selling stuff, and the follow-up is often just that last little bit. Leaving the ball in their court is another one. So I see this so often. Actually, I was speaking to a client just last week, and she said, I said, what about that person you were going to follow up with? And she said, I'll just wait and see if she comes back to me. Assuming that they're going to come back is a really bad strategy. People are busy. They forget stuff. They move on with their lives, whatever. And how many times has someone come back to you and you've gone, oh yeah, I did want to buy that thing. Okay, thanks. I'll get it. So don't leave the ball in their court. Don't assume they'll come back if they're interested. Go back in there and speak to them again. And then the last one, afraid of being salesy. So, the way I managed to turn this on its head was to think of what I sell as something that people really, really need. And actually, if I don't go back and follow up with them, like, poor them, they don't get to work with me. And that's mean of me. And that's like a disservice to this person. So you've got to find mindset strategies. You've got to find tactics. You've got to train yourself. You've got to do whatever it takes to get to the point where you don't see sales as something sleazy or as being pushy. You've got to get to the point where you really see it as truly helping someone. And I think a lot of the people who've spoken today can help a lot with that sort of thing. Okay, so that is, I think I've rushed through that. So that is my 5 reasons why people are not buying from you. And I would love to hear if anyone has any questions or comments. I'm going to go back to the beginning. Gary, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Gary, are you talking? Because I can't hear you. Yeah.
Boyd, have you got a question? That was a whole day's workshop. That was a whole day's workshop in 1 hour.
I did, after watching a few of Boyd and Tim, I thought, wow, I really maybe overdone it. But I hope you enjoyed it.
Look how cool Boyd is, just like he's smoking his vape. Boyd, you popped on. This is unprecedented. Most speakers just go and then come. Have you got a question for Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said was absolutely perfect, and the bit that really resonated with me is the giving a discount for no reason whatsoever because you're frightened of your price in the first place.
Yeah.
I just say, just deliver your blooming price.
Yes.
Just deliver it. You don't have to apologise for it, because if you said to me, Lee, oh, it's £1,000, but I'll do it for 8, I'd say, can you do it for 6?
Yeah, exactly.
You dropped quick enough, didn't you? You gave me 20%. I didn't even ask. So, and there's the other view. If you're going from 1,000 to 800 that quick, were you ripping me off at 1,000?
Yeah, it breaks down the trust immediately, doesn't it?
Of course. And the other thing, which is massive, is why don't people follow up? It's so arrogant.
That's why
I know they don't do it because of arrogance. They do it because of fear.
Yes.
But you know what that is, Lee? I always say, get a no for God's sake, rather than a maybe, because the maybes never become deals.
This is true. Now, Lee, every speaker today has been given this opportunity to help the startups with some offer. Do you want to tell us what your offer is before you go, if you had a chance to prepare that?
Yes, I was thinking my offer could be a sort of an audit of the way you're presenting yourself and your business to your customers, and to see where I can help to shift some of these things that I've mentioned today.
And how do people contact you?
So the best way is with my email address, I suppose, which is Lee, L-E, at The Small Business Minimalist, which is a mouthful.
Boyd was so impressed he came on, I unrehearsed, so we like that.
Come back.
He's come back. Now, I asked everyone, if you don't mind answering as honestly as you can, how has COVID affected you? Have you had any lessons that you could share? Share your ups and downs with us before you leave, and then it's over to Janet, my good friend Janet.
It's a tricky one. On a personal level, I've learned that I've always tried to keep like my life as a mum so separate from my life in business, and I've learned that the two can coexist and have to coexist and don't have to compete with each other. I think that's been a big one. But yeah, I think it goes back to what I've followed many mentors and business coaches over time, and I think it goes back to what Tim was saying again. Like, I've learned that generosity is such a big deal, and people need us to serve, and you know, the things I've learned from people over time, whether it's I've paid them or not, or it's been a bad customer or a good experience, whatever it is, we actually have a responsibility to share that with people, and I think that's really come to the fore a lot in the last year.
I love that. I love that. You've been very generous, and I hope it comes back to you in tenfold. If we do this again, I hope that you'd come back too. So have a lovely day. And
Thanks very much. Thanks for including me.
You're in this exclusive speakers WhatsApp. So carry on networking and speaking.
Lee, I wanted to thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone can actually hear me.
We can hear you. We can't see you.
He's gone.
Janet. Do you want to just, before you go, what would you recommend good reading just before you leave? Or podcasts? We haven't talked about podcasts, how powerful they are.
My favourite at the moment is Holly Tucker's podcast, Conversations of Inspiration. You know Holly Tucker, she's the founder of Not on the High Street, and she's just one of my all-time favourite people. Talking about like champagne moments, if anyone wants to introduce me to Holly Tucker, I'm there for that.
Why not? You never know.
But she interviews the most fascinating, interesting people, really.
I love a podcast. You start businesses, listen to these amazing people, and you might just walk away with a golden nugget. So thank you, Lee. Have a lovely day, and speak to you soon.
I don't know if you could hear me. My camera's not working. I don't know if you could hear me at all, but I wanted to thank you so much for coming to speak. It was really, really interesting. Lots of great insights.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. You can hear me great. Okay, camera's not working.
Yeah, we can. Good, thanks. All right, Janice, looking forward to watching you.
Thanks so much. We will speak very soon.
Now, Janet.